Mounjaro? Then join us on the plus sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Monaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Monaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity.
Welcome to the stream. Happy Thursday night. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to the stream. I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Monaro. That's why I'm here. And you are on the pen. That's why you're here. I don't know if you guys were getting that feedback or not, but I was, and it was annoying. So I'm back. How's everybody doing tonight? It's so good to have you here. I don't know if you guys were getting that. It's doing the same thing. Are you guys getting that feedback? So I'm back. How's everybody doing tonight? You're getting the feedback? All right. I don't know what the deal is here. Are you guys getting that feedback? You're getting the feedback? All right. Give me 2 minutes here. I'll be right back. Hopefully the third time is a charm. I don't know what the deal is tonight, but hope you're all doing well. I'm glad that you're here hanging with me despite the technical difficulties. So thank you for being here. We've got a great show tonight. I'm excited to share with you tonight. We've got a great guest, Brent Tuggle, my buddy that I met through the men's Facebook group about GLP-1 medications, which I'll make sure to go back and link in the description of this video. Is also been gracious enough to help me moderate the Zepbound for Weight Loss group on Facebook, which is growing really fast. If you want to be a part of the Zepbound for Weight Loss community over there, that's already linked in the description of this video. But like I said, the men's group will be listed after we go live. So welcome to the stream. It's good to have you all here. Sue the Dude, Natalie, Anna, welcome to the stream. Anna had a good week with a good report from her doctor with some serious weight loss. That's awesome. Congratulations, Patricia. Welcome to the stream. Carla, Lil Chi, Folly Beach. Good to have you here, Carla. Steve, the Technophile. Good to have you here, Steve. Rudy. Thank y'all for being here. This is going to be a great show tonight. We've got some what's fresh. We've got some fake news, all stuff you'll want to stay on the stream for tonight. So thank you for being here. This is also the last stream of the year. So Merry Christmas to y'all. We've got the child with us tonight to help us celebrate our Christmas episode of On the Pen Live. And we've got a really great January lined up for you, so I'm really excited. We're going to have Ken Lee back in the stream. Who remembers Ken Lee and who wants an update from Fat Guy No More? I know I do. It's been a while since I've heard from him, so we'll get an update from him. We've also got some other friends lined up here, so I'm excited to share that with you. Also, some really big news here to share with you at the beginning of the year. But for now, we're just going to look back kind of on the last year. Earlier in the week, I shared the first video, the first On the Pen Live that we ever did. I streamed that. I don't know if any of you caught that this week, but a great show. Michelle Hess is going to come back and join us sometime, hopefully in January as well. We had a great conversation with her last year, several on the pens, and so it's been a while. We want to catch up with her. And so tonight, for tonight's show, I just want to say thank you for being here. Some of you have been here that entire year. Our guest, Brent, he's been around on, as a member of the channel, part of the On the Pen community for a year now. I know so many of you who are in here now have also been around for the whole journey. So what a year it's been. I'm very thankful for you all. Thank you for being a part of what we do here. So tonight we've got Brent in here. Brent's lost over 100 pounds on Monaro, and just an awesome story. Somebody who's in maintenance now on GLP-1 medication. So if you are at or nearing maintenance and you have questions, it's going to be a great show for you tonight. And he's just a really methodical, logical guy who likes to look at numbers. And so he's got a lot of interesting insights to share as far as his journey goes. So I'm excited to hear from him tonight. If you are new here tonight, I would love to hear from you. If you're new, put an N in the chat next to your name. Let me know that you're new here, because we'd love to welcome you by name. We always love it when we have new members and visitors to the channel. So thank you all for being here tonight. Would love to hear from you and know what medication that you're on. Let's get into a little bit of housekeeping before we get this show rolling tonight. Hopefully this doesn't set off the echo bomb again. Housekeeping. You want mint for pillow? So, housekeeping. So, like I said, we've hit a year. We had our year mark last week. What a year it's been. On the pen, this show has just become a real staple in the community of GLP-1 users, and you all have made it great. And so, as I was saying in the members only chat before here, I would be remiss to mention how great the community is without giving a special shout out to Sue the Dude, who moderates here and does such a great job keeping the chat rolling every week. And so many of you are members because Sue the Dude has gifted so many memberships. So thank you, Sue the Dude. Special shout out to you. You are definitely a super special part of this community, along with all of you. But Sue the Dude, special hat tip, because he's in every single live that we do, really spurring on great conversation in the chat. Brandon is new on his second week at Zepbound. Welcome. Good to have you here, Brandon. Thanks for being here. It's good to have you here. Make sure that you have any questions tonight for myself or for Brent. Put an N in the chat next to your name. Let me know that you're new here, but then put a Q in front of your question so that we know you have a question. We can get back to that a little bit later on. If you're new, like Brandon, you might just want a little bit of background. I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Monaro. I've been on Monaro for a year. I have lost 30 pounds. It's been the first time in my adult life. Steve, welcome to Technophile. I thought that was a new name as well. So I did a year on Monaro, lost 30 pounds for the first time in my obese life. I was able to lose 30 pounds in a year and now gain back 45. So that's a win. But I did plateau and I kind of leveled out. So now I am on Ozempic, the 2 milligram dose. And one of the things that we do on this channel is every night, the largest super chat of the night gets to choose where I inject this bad girl. So 2 milligrams going in tonight. So if you are the biggest super chat of the night, you'll be able to tell me where to inject this bad girl. But, in my GLP-1 exploits, I've developed a pretty good community, both here on YouTube. We're almost to 6,000. So make sure that if you're new here, you hit that subscribe button to help us get to our goal of hitting 6,000. It'd be amazing if we could hit that before the end of the year, but that's a pretty lofty goal. But if anybody who's new is watching this could hit that subscribe button, we can get a little bit closer. So one of the things that I did about 6 months ago is I jumped over to TikTok as well. And on TikTok, we're near 20,000 followers. So I hear from a lot of people on a weekly basis. Between all the different social media channels I have, we're close to 30,000 followers. And so I hear just from a lot of people. So when you ask, like, who is this dude and what does he have to offer? Well, I hear from a lot of people. So if you are just starting, especially as a journey with a GLP-1 medication like Zepbound, Mounjaro, Ozempic, Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, any of those medications, they all kind of fall into a similar class of medications that act on incretin hormones. These are hormones that are oftentimes dysregulated in your gut if you're obese or have any metabolic sickness. If you're just starting, there isn't going to be much that you're going to deal with that I haven't also talked to somebody else who's dealt with the same thing. So we come in here, we share the news about what's going on in the world of GLP-1s. We debunk some of the things that are going around that are bunk news in the world of GLP-1s, and we just have a great time, and we do it all while usually inviting a special guest on the show. So that's what we do on the pen. We do that every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. This is our 46th episode of the show. So that's what we do here if you're new. So just to kind of give you a background of what we do. So that's kind of what's going on in the world of this channel here. Of course, on a personal note, I've been on Ozempic here close to a month here. It is it's another week in the NAB household of strep, so we got that going for us too. So it's just I feel like we can't catch a break health-wise around here sometimes, but we're hoping to all be kind of over the hump by the time Christmas rolls around, so that we can all enjoy each other. Charlie Johnson is. Are you new here, Charlie? 245 to 165. That is amazing. Wow. So very good. If you're new here, let me know that you're new here. It sounds good to have extra voices, new voices. I know that there's more people coming into the community via Zepbound. So welcome, Charlie. And to the other folks who said that they were new tonight, including, let's see, who else did I miss? Hey, Freedom Variants here. Welcome, Freedom. Yeah, I got to scroll up too far. You know who you are. I already said hey to you. Welcome to the newbies. So yeah, with that said, let's get right into the second part of our show where we like to talk about what's fresh in the world of GLP-1 medications. There's a lot to talk about tonight, but we're only going to zero in on a couple of things because we want to have plenty of time to talk to Brent. So let's get right into what's fresh. So some interesting things going on in the world of GLP-1s tonight. I had them all queued up, and then I had to kill my browser. So I lost all my all of the tabs that I had, but I think we can still kind of get the gist here. Give me 1 second. So Eli Lilly, basically invested another nearly $500 million in an AI company called Fauna. And this is a really interesting company to have invested in because they use AI, but they have a specific focus in their AI as far as identifying potential new molecules that they could use to treat chronic disease, specifically the diseases of obesity and diabetes. Now, the really interesting thing about this specific company is they actually study specifically animals that hibernate. And they're looking at specific patterns, specific molecules that these animals make, these hibernating animals make, that can maybe be replicated to help treat chronic disease. So when Eli Lilly said on their last conference call, if you follow my channel, you'll kind of get a flavor for the fact that that's some of the stuff we follow here, is what they say on these conference calls. These earnings calls tell us a lot about what these companies are going to be doing in the future. And I just think that's an exciting thing to follow. So we cover all that. They said they're going to turn over every stone as it relates to obesity and diabetes research until the data that they come up with tells them to stop turning stones over. And so this is really interesting because studying animals that hibernate is just, and infusing that with AI and what you can learn, I just think we're just at I've said this for a year now, we're at the advent, I think, of what pharmacological drugs can do to help treat metabolic sickness like obesity and diabetes. And it's just amazing to see what these companies are developing and researching. And so it'll be really fun to follow, and we'll continue to do it on this channel. But Eli Lilly investing another $500 million into an AI company that can help them study specifically hibernating animals and how those animals might lead us to some breakthroughs in diabetes and obesity. Very, very fascinating stuff. Another topic that I wanted to talk about, and I want to get some interaction from y'all, and I will make sure that we get back to the questions. Sue the Dude, I don't know if you have the ability to maybe text me any questions that you see in the chat so that I can make sure that we get back to them. Or Brent, if you want to make a note. But is anybody actually considering going off the medication for the holidays? Brent's getting them, so we're all good. Thanks, Brent. Is anybody actually considering suspending their use of GLP-1 medications for the holidays? Now, I read an article about this earlier this week. I think it was sent to me by Matt. The last article, by the way, was compliments of Sue the Dude. So just credit where credit's due. Thank you for feeding me this information, guys. But this is just fascinating to me. The idea of people actually going off of GLP-1 medication, you're taking it for weight loss to help you, reset your behaviors and you want to go off the medication so that you can overeat. I don't help me understand that. That to me has me scratching my head, and also a little bit, honestly, a little bit jealous of people who take the medication and actually have that level of appetite suppression where they just feel like they cannot eat. I can't imagine that. I just can't imagine. I didn't experience it on Monaro. I haven't experienced it on Ozempic. And it's just fascinating, but it's happening in large enough numbers that major media outlets are reporting on it because people are making videos about this. So I think that's just fascinating. I can't imagine many in this community are planning on doing that. I've heard from anybody who's planning on doing that, but in no way would I consider suspending a treatment that is helping to fix me biologically just so that I can revert to old patterns of behavior. I think that whole mentality just kind of feeds back into this toxic view of obesity that has been propagated throughout society in general, that it is a disease, not a disease, but rather a condition of behaviors rather than something that's there's stuff metabolically and biologically going on. So fascinating. I'm not hearing from anybody that you're actually planning on doing that. So I'm glad to hear that from this community. I just think that was absurd. One of the things that I want to get into here before we bring Brent on is some fake news. And we covered this on our channel, but it's starting to get more serious. And I'm glad that we've covered it on this channel. So this won't be new news to you necessarily. But some news that broke this week, I think, is worthy of covering. And this falls under the category of taking out the trash because this is something that we got to be aware of. So this week, actually I think it was just today or yesterday, news broke from the FDA that the fake bootleg Ozempic pens that have been popping up in Europe are now popping up here in the United States. And again, this is happening at the pharmacy level. So at the pharmacy level, what we're seeing is fake bootleg Ozempic pens, and they're typically filled with insulin glargine. Not Ozempic, which can be a very, very dangerous condition because what insulin does is it drives your blood sugars into the ground, and super low blood sugars can actually kill people. This is serious, serious business. GLP-1s stimulate your pancreas, the beta cells in your pancreas, to make more insulin when you need it. But actual artificial insulin just drives your blood sugar into the ground. And so there's actually been cases in the European Union of people who have actually died from this. They've gone into super hypoglycemia and lost their lives. It is very dangerous. So a couple things that I want to make sure that we cover on the stream tonight is what some identifiers are. So when you look at your Ozempic pen, notice there are no markings on there. There's no numbers, no nothing. On these fake pens, you'll see numbers like you would on a normal syringe, right? And that's because these are actually Lantus pens. They're pens made by Sanofi that are actually insulin pens. And what they do is they remove the labels. They're little blue pens. They look kind of similar. They'll remove the label and put an Ozempic label on it, but it's literally just their insulin in there. One of the big key identifiers, you see the color of this? Now, this is 2 Ozempic pens here. The color of this plunger is gray. On the bootleg ones, you'll see that the color of the plunger is actually purple. So if you don't have a gray plunger on the end, you know that you're dealing with a potential bootleg version of the medication. The other telltale sign, again, is going to be any markings here. That's just clear. It's just a clear glass. There's no markings on it whatsoever. If there are markings on that, you need to contact not only your pharmacy right away, because it would have been your pharmacy that's been duped into buying the bootleg medications, but also I would contact your authorities. I would actually contact the FDA directly and tell them that you've gotten a hold of this. This is a very dangerous and scary situation. So I want you all to be informed. I'm working on getting a hold of a water pen. That's what drug reps actually give to endocrinologists to teach people how to inject this insulin. I'm hoping to get, and if you are an endocrinologist, know an endocrinologist, or you are a doctor and you work and you have access to be able to get one of these water pens to me. Again, there's no medicine in them at all. I'd like to be able to show the difference on screen for people. This is a very serious situation. This is happening in the United States now. And we knew it was just a matter of time. And to be honest, guys, it's just a matter of time before we see the same thing happen with the Monaro pens, to be totally honest with you. You've got the single dose vials now. Those will be very easy for people to dupe. And we're just looking at a really scary time. And so we want to stay informed here. So we're going to be staying on top of this story, continuing to stay on top of the story. That's why it's very important to make sure that you hit that like, hit that bell, hit that subscribe to the content that I make here, because we stay on top of all this stuff on this channel. And I hope that you will stay informed on this, especially if you are somebody who is on Ozempic. So that's what I got for fake news this week. I hope you're doing well. I hope I know that we've got some questions in the chat, so I'm eager to bring Brent in and talk about his journey, talk about how he got here, how he got on Monaro, where he's at now on his journey, talk a little bit about his involvement in these Facebook groups. And so you know that we don't bring a guest into the show without running our hot channel bumper. So we're going to roll that bumper and we're going to bring Brent in.
Hot channel.
Brent, welcome to the stream. How are you tonight, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dave?
Good, man. It's nice to finally meet you face to face.
Yeah.
And just very publicly, I want to thank you for the work that you've put into the Zepbound for weight loss group over on Facebook. You've been a wealth of information there, and not only to the group, but to me as I'm setting this up and trying my darndest to keep all the scammers out, because we know that scammers on Facebook are about a dime a dozen.
At least, maybe a dime a 2 dozen. There's a lot.
Seriously. And they're getting craftier and craftier, the things that they figure out how to kind of weasel their way into a group. So yeah. So thank you for being here. Thank you for not only giving your time to the Facebook groups in the form of moderating, but also to this stream tonight. And you've been a follower of this channel for, like I said earlier, I aired the first episode of On the Pen Live, and I was rewatching the chat just to see the names in there. Of course, Sue the Dude was there, but Brent Tuggle right in there. So thank you for being a member of this channel too for a year now. We really, really appreciate you being a part of this community and everything you've contributed in that way as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of all of them. I've told friends and other people I meet plenty of times that I'm just happy to share. And if I can help anybody else either have the same success or feel as good as I feel now after having gone through this journey, right? Like, why would I not do that?
Yeah, it's hard not to become an evangelist. Now, these medications are changing different people in different ways. They're addressing, people with different metabolic issues, different ways. But I think we can all agree that they've changed lives, changed our lives. And so it's hard not to become an evangelist of these medications and what they can do if you've struggled for a long time, like you and I have.
Yeah,
and I want to get into specifically your journey. Like what actually brought you, first of all, like where did you start weight wise? What led you to the GLP-1 journey?
Yeah. So I started about it was a little over a year ago, October 3rd, 2022 was when I started a diet. I, like many of us or all of us, have been on many diets before, had lost a lot of weight, gained it all back. And I would always come back to just about 300 pounds. I think it was 294.9 when I started this time. Right. And it would always come back to that marker. And I think probably many of us know that we have that mark that our body is happy with. And once we get there, that's kind of where we stay. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons for that metabolically with things that were broken that make that happen. So anyway, I started a journey, started a diet, and it was, I went about 3 weeks doing some of the things I had done before, eating less, maybe try to move more, fix bad habits and all that. And I got about 3 weeks into it. I felt like I was on a very unsustainable path. Like I was doing the diet, but I could just tell like I wasn't going to be able to stick to it like I needed to and what have you. And so I kind of took a minute to think about like, why is this time going to be any different than all the other times that I've eaten less and exercised more and lost weight and then gained it all back? And it didn't take me very long to figure out that it wasn't going to be any different. It was going to be the same result. I was going to go through all this effort and the bad days and the good days and whatever it was of that diet, and then gain it back at some period of time later. There's no reason to say I won't gain it back now, but I feel pretty confident that I'm not going to because of what I've done. So after that 3 weeks, I decided like, what could I do different? What's wrong? What's broken? Why does it always come back? And so I decided to look through a little different lens of like, maybe I have a disease. Maybe there's something like physically wrong in my body that causes this to happen. And so I started investigating like GLP-1s. I knew I wasn't diabetic. It's a miracle I wasn't. It runs in my family on both sides, my mom and my dad's side of the family. So it's just a miracle that I didn't have diabetes. So I started investigating it, and I had a physical at the beginning of October, right when I started this journey. And the doctor I had, he was a new doctor. The doctor I'd had previously had left the practice, and they gave me somebody new. I brought it up to him, and I pretty quickly got and I can go into this a little more later, an opinion I have about doctors, but I pretty quickly got the like, well, I've done that with people before and they didn't like it, and so I don't like it.
So just to hit pause real quick.
Yeah.
So you talked to your doctor about GLP-1s. How did you find out about them to begin with? Is it just that you're a researcher?
My mom, honestly, my mom takes Ozempic for diabetic reasons, and so I was familiar with what they were, but I hadn't like really dug into their like use for weight loss, right? And I think even my mom had mentioned to me that like Monjaro was a new thing and that people were taking it for dieting, and so that was when I just started like hitting up Google and doing the searches, looking at all.
This was roughly on the timeline. Roughly when?
Mid-October of 2022. So Monjaro had probably been out, maybe 4 months by then. It wasn't around July.
Came out in June.
Yeah, right? Yeah, June. Yeah. So June, about 4 months it had been out on the market. So the original golden ticket coupon was still a thing then when I was starting and what have you. I can talk later. I was very blessed to have great insurance that covered Monjaro for me the whole time that I've been on it and so forth. So I didn't have to wrangle the coupons and stuff so much that a lot of people had to go through. But anyway, the doctor I had, he was kind of like, yeah, I don't like those people I prescribed them to, they had nausea and this, that, and the other, and it didn't work. And so I just don't think it's a thing. But I know a nutritionist that you could talk to. I'm like, oh, whatever. I've done all that before. And, it didn't work out. And that told me all I needed to know about this provider and our future relationship.
When you're like me or like so many people in a stream here and you've dieted for 20 years off and on, it's not a problem of not knowing.
Right.
Not knowing
exactly
nutritionally what the right thing to do is.
Exactly.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. Please do. And so I went out and I found a provider that was on board. Now I was also fortunate through my work. We have kind of an online concierge health service, and I found a provider there that's just been an amazing healthcare partner with me. And I stress the word partner and what you need to find in a doctor. So we had some really candid conversations the first time we met about what my goals were and how I wanted to do them, and if they were able to be on board with me in that journey and what have you. And turns out they were, and it's been great.
Awesome.
So that was October. So it was right around, I think it was around October 20th or 21st, something like that, when I took my first 2.5 milligram shot of Monjaro. Been on it ever since. I went roughly a month, like one box on each dose, kind of titrated up. This
So you
was
kind
back
of
in the time.
you followed the Lilly dosing schedule, 2.5
Yeah.
per month, 5, 7.5. So
Yeah.
did you have any problems with the finding the doses, or were you able to just click through them each month?
Not too bad. I was just getting ready to say, I think 5 milligram I was on for a month, maybe 2 months on 5 because I couldn't get 7.5 when I needed to in that schedule.
So you did the smart thing and you camped out on the lower doses. That's what I wish I would have done. So I did the opposite, Brent Tuggle. I couldn't get to 7.5, so I jumped to 10. And then when I couldn't get to 12.5, I jumped to 15. So I missed all the opportunity at those lower doses to lose and jumped right to the 15.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I titrated up through them. I did eventually get to 15. I think I did. I don't remember if I did 3 months or 4 months. I should look it up because I do have it recorded when I took what shots. But I was on it for at least 3 months, and then started working my way back down. Actually, because I was nearing. By the time I had finished the 3 months on 15, I was nearing what I wanted to be my kind of goal weight, and so I started working backwards. I guess. I don't know if we want to talk now about maintenance or later, but that's where I got. Trying to think. Well, so I want to go back a little bit more in my journey here, right? So I started the Monaro, and I was specifically looking at the GLP-1 to fix what I mentioned, fixing being a systemic problem, being obesity, primarily in my case, being driven by insulin resistance.
Did you have your insulin levels checked? How did you
I
know
didn't have
resistance?
Yeah. So number one, like kind of if you know, when you know enough people who are diabetic in your life and your family and what it is, you just know. I did not get my insulin tested. I do lots of blood work. So what I actually used was you can like roughly estimate if you're insulin resistant with the ratio of your triglycerides to your HDL cholesterol, believe it or not. There's a lot of studies about that. Now, it's also a very strong predictor of cardiac health and risk factor, but it's highly correlated to insulin resistance also. There's some other factors to it, but anyway, that's just how I used to decide it. My doctor agreed with me, and I had the blood work recently from the physical I'd had, and so we didn't like dive into like get a strict insulin resistance diagnosis because I could get the meds and didn't need it. But anyhow, started taking the meds, started having great success right away. A lot of people I see asking now are starting Zepbound. It's like, well, when should I feel this? I took the shot this morning and I don't feel anything yet. It takes a little bit, right? Like it's a titrating dose, but by the first week that I was on it, I lost maybe a pound or pound and a half, and it probably took 3 or 4 days, halfway through that week before I kind of had the like, oh, I kind of feel a little fuller now and what have you, right? And it starts working up. And it really wasn't until I got on to 5 milligram that it was like when you took a shot the next day, you knew you were on Monaro. Like, you feel bad, but you knew you were on it. Or in my case.
Sure.
I really was blessed to never really have any side effect problems at all. I never experienced any nausea too much on 15. 15 packed a wallop. There's no doubt when I moved up to 15 from 12 and a half that it was there. But I never was like sick or had to miss work or stay in bed or anything like that for it. I never had any of the either constipation or opposite problems a lot of people experience. I think one reason for that is I'm a really strong proponent of probiotics and taking them. If you search me up anywhere in any of these Facebook groups, you'll see me talk about probiotics.
I could probably pick your brain on a completely unrelated matter. My kids have been pumped full of antibiotics for the last 3 months because of strep. And like all of them, like this has got to just be ravaging their body. So
it does. It obliterates them. Yeah,
I'd love to know what I could be doing for them to help rebuild what the antibiotics are taking away. But
yep. I will send a podcast your way that will explain it to you in no uncertain terms.
Awesome.
But you're absolutely right. When you take an antibiotic by that, it just obliterates your gut biome. why this is important, right? And I didn't even realize this until recently. There's actually studies they've done with mice. Now, mice and humans aren't completely equal, right? But they've been able to take a mouse that was obese and a mouse that's lean and normal and be able to obliterate that, take their gut biomes out, take samples from them, obliterate their gut biomes and transplant them across, right? Put the bacteria, the gut biome from the obese mouse and the lean one and vice versa. And guess what? They switch being obese and lean.
Wow.
It's crazy. There are specific strains of bacteria that you can take as a probiotic that actually enhance GLP-1 secretion in your body. The chemicals that those bacteria put off bind to the L cells in your gut, which is where the GLP-1 is secreted from, and they stimulate that secretion. So there's a huge component of the gut biome to obesity and other things too. So anyhow, off of my step stool there, but let's just say that was kind of the next part I took after Monaro, right? Was trying to optimize and look at my gut health and take it seriously. This whole journey, I took this iterative, data-driven approach to things, right? I would try to look at a problem, try to fix it, optimize it, and only work on that problem until I thought I had it fixed or optimized, and then move on to see like what else was next. And so I moved through a lot of things, right? I found vitamins that were deficient, specifically vitamin D was really low, and vitamin D is hugely important in our bodies. It's a pro-hormone, so it
Were
helps.
you ever tested for fatty liver?
I was not tested specifically for fatty liver.
Do you think you had it?
I don't know. I don't think so, but it's possible. I say I don't think so because like my ALT and AST readings were always relatively low, and those will tend to get elevated when you have fatty liver and some of the other things. But it's possible,
so
right?
For what it's worth, I had fatty liver that was diagnosed not by high ALT or AST, but by a CT scan that was done for kidney stones. And one of the hallmarks, as I understand it, for fatty liver is really low vitamin D. So
it's possible.
There's a couple questions, Brent, because you're like, whew, you're bringing the heat tonight. You got a lot of information, and it's bringing a lot of questions, which is awesome. So one of the questions that somebody had was going back to the insulin, because I think the insulin resistance thing, I don't think can be understated, right? My opinion about insulin resistance is that insulin resistance should be what we actually call prediabetes. Like we should have standardized testing for it. If you're insulin resistant, you're pre-diabetic. And then when the A1C starts to creep up, you're full diabetic. And then maybe like a stage 2 or stage 3 diabetic beyond there, because insulin resistance is something that isn't tested for in most people. They test your A1C and go, you're not diabetic, as if as if everybody who's not diabetic is created equally. And it's just not the case. So there's several ways that you can test for this. One of them is you can just have your insulin levels, your fasting insulin levels checked, which is going to give you a good idea of whether you're insulin resistant or not. Or it's going to tell you if your liver is making glucose out of control, which is another hallmark of fatty liver, right? Another thing that GLP-1s actually work on, reducing the amount of glucose that your liver makes, which requires less insulin on a baseline. But what can you tell everybody specifically what that ratio of which triglycerides to cholesterol? Can you spell that out a little bit?
Yeah. It was triglycerides to HDL. Let me just double check my sheet here to make sure, but I'm sure it's HDL. Triglyceride to HDL ratio, right? So I was like over 2 on that when I started.
So triglycerides, your triglyceride number, over your
HDL
number.
So an optimal, so an optimal number for that is less than 1. 1 or less is a really great number for that. I was over 2, I think in general terms, like 3 is considered like pretty bad. Like definitely insulin resistant, definitely higher risk for heart disease. I don't know if it's high risk. I think it's over 3. I think it's high risk for heart disease. Anyone can look this up. It's simplifying. You'll find dozens of studies about this. Um, so yeah, that's it.
I'm sure I spelled triglyceride. There's probably a Y in there, but
It is. Yeah. You're right. You spelled it wrong, but that's the right ratio.
I need a producer and a spell
Yeah.
checker. But okay, yeah. So triglycerides over HDL, that ratio should be less than 1. If it's over 1,
Yeah.
you're dealing with some level of insulin resistance more than likely.
Well, creeping that way, right? At least I think probably over 2, you can pretty safely say you've got some level of insulin resistance, and when you get up to 3, yeah. But this is all, of course, my non-doctor, non-medical opinion. So.
Right. None of this is medical advice. It's just a couple of dopes
Right.
talking on YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. So, and then another question that somebody had too on that topic was, do you have a specific probiotic that you recommend? A brand?
I do. Well, I do. Well, I guess a couple, right? So, and I want to make sure I get this right. So I'm going to open it up here. So, because I'm just switching
I'll
right
put up
now.
another banner and spell it horribly wrong.
Yeah. So I've taken for at least since last January or so, I took a product. It's called Seed, SEED. You can't buy it on the shelf. They ship it to you. I won't lie, it's not cheap. It's around $50 a month. But it's a good, high quality probiotic. It has a lot of strains in it.
Like
Just
seed,
like
seeds?
Yeah, seed like you would grow. SEED. I have just switched, and I don't have my new bottle yet, but I'm switching to a company. The company is called Pendulum, PENDULUM, and I'm specifically switching to one that's called Pendulum Metabolic Daily. It has some very specific strains of bacteria in it that work to help with GLP-1 support, that work to help with glucose control and some other stuff. They have another very high-end probiotic. It's very expensive, that actually is proven to lower blood sugar, believe it or not, through the activity of the bacteria. Anybody's welcome to go read about it. It's really interesting. I'm convinced. I'm sold. I'm switching to it. So
Awesome. Thoughts on berberine while we're at it?
You know what?
I did a video like 6 months ago, a short on YouTube. It is my most viewed short that I have. I think it's in the 20,000s that it's been viewed.
Wow.
Which for YouTube for me is like crazy. But basically, I just was like, hey, for those of you reading all the hype that berberine is nature's Ozempic, it's not. And don't just take it blindly, think it is, because there are certain side effects. And in that video, I mentioned the FDA's name. And I'm telling you, I've never got more hate on a single video. I love it, though, because it gets tons of interaction. But what are your thoughts on berberine?
Yeah, so I have an unopened bottle of it in my cabinet. So at one point I ordered some, I was ordering some of the other supplements I take at the time, and I think they were having a sale, and I'd been reading about it, of course. And so I got some, but I never took it. And the main reason I didn't take it, I wasn't scared to take it or what have you. It was just, but as I mentioned earlier, like when I make a change about something, I make that change for a couple of weeks and I work on measuring it and understanding if it's helping or not helping. And I was in the middle of some other changes and had another one planned. And so I just wasn't ready to start berberine yet. And I just got to where I just didn't think I needed it. So I just never tried it or started it.
So here's my take on berberine. In my cursory studies of it, and I have taken berberine, I took it before I took metformin. And I would say that berberine's effects on the body are more similar to metformin than they are to GLP-1. GLP-1 and metformin have a similar mechanism of action in that metformin's main way of driving down your blood sugar is by reducing the amount of sugar made in your liver. And GLP-1s do that as well. It's just that GLP-1s do a lot of other things as well that metformin doesn't, including, well, metformin like turned my guts inside out. It was a terrible
It's pretty rough. Yeah.
Berberine wasn't bad that way. So it's like a less harsh thing, but it also wasn't as effective as berberine. So if you're hearing that berberine is nature's Ozempic, it's not. It's just not. The other thing that I hear too, and I'd be interested to hear your take on this. I hear so much lately, like, oh, just drink some olive oil. It'll naturally produce GLP-1. And I'm like, there are foods that produce GLP-1. GLP-1 is a response, a hormone that's released in response to eating. The thing about GLP-1, the natural hormone that differentiates it from an analog like Ozempic is Ozempic lasts a week. GLP-1 lasts minutes.
Right.
So that's right. The difference, right? So yeah, you could probably drink some olive oil and stimulate some GLP production. That's going to last a few minutes, but you're going to have to drink a lot of olive oil to get it to last a week, like Ozempic. So
it's good for your LDL cholesterol, I guess.
Right. So anyways, I appreciate
that's a good point too. Like getting back to this probiotic I was talking about, like I in no way expect or anticipate that to be like a replacement for these medicines. It's just if you're taking a probiotic, take one that supports the goals you have, right? And if it supports GLP-1, great. Maybe you get a little bit more, but it's not like this is going to be an analog of taking Monaro or Zepbound, right? Yeah.
There is no substitute, people. There are supplements, but not substitutes. Yeah. Super, super cool. I think what you were just talking about was how adding things in incrementally to improve your results is a really good segue into one of the things that you've shared on the men's Facebook group that I've found the most fascinating and that is your use of AI as a tool to track what you're doing. Can you just, we don't need to belabor it, but can you just talk a little bit about how you've used AI as a tool? Presumably the chat, like ChatGPT or Bard or whatever you're using to kind of help you track and keep and graph this information.
Yeah. So I keep pretty meticulous track of all these things that I've been working on, right? If you read my sayings, right, I have lots of little mantras, right? One of them I have is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so when I'm making all these changes, I find a way to measure it. I try to make it quantitative, some way that I can measure weight or heart rate or whatever it is, right? Something that I can track with some kind of tracker on my body. And I keep track of those in different spreadsheets and what have you. Whatever data that I can correlate with those things, times of day, day of the week, whatever it is, I keep track of it. The way I've used AI and some of this is to point some AI tools at my sets of data and essentially tell it to tell me what's interesting here, right? This is a really powerful thing that AI can do, is it can cross correlate the data in so many ways so fast that it can draw out insights that could take you forever to try and put together looking at all this stuff. And so without a doubt, some of it's junk, right? It's going to correlate things that are meaningless, but it finds some interesting things. So one of the things I keep track of every time I give myself a shot of Monjaro, I keep track of where I give it to myself at. Is it in my left thigh, my right thigh, right stomach, side of my stomach, left side of my stomach, this, that, and the other. I can pretty definitively show in my data that my left thigh by far and above is the most effective place for me to take a shot of Monjaro. By about a half a pound a week over week, I would lose.
I have heard anecdotally from people who do not track this, who just pay attention cognitively, that the left side of their body responds better. So immediately my mind goes to, are you left-handed or are you right-handed?
Yeah, I'm right-handed, but my left thigh is better. I have no idea, right? This is my thought process on it, right? Because I go to the science side of it, right? So I expect that the fat that I'm injecting into in that area is of a particular density and a particular density of capillaries and blood vessels and things there that cause it to diffuse and do its thing in a more efficient way than it does in the other places that are in my body. That's what I expect is really the reason.
So,
I think it's just everybody's probably different. I'll be really clear. any of the things that I say I'm doing, like they work for me and me specifically, and I have no idea if they work for anybody else. Probably
Well,
not,
there
or
are no
maybe
super chats.
partially or to
There's
some
no super
degree.
chats tonight, and I can definitively tell you if they're not, I will be injecting into the left thigh.
There you go. There you go. You know, and but when I saw that, like it was also like an aha moment of like, yeah, that totally makes sense, because I've always felt like when I gave it in my left thigh that I had stronger effects that week. Um, so that's something I saw. I'm trying to think of the other things that I saw with my AI analysis that was interesting. Uh, Gosh, I don't know. That was certainly one of the most interesting ones. Um, should try and know. I've got all kinds of spreadsheets open on my desktop here. I should look. Let's see what was there. Oh, I could see, and this wouldn't have been hard to find without AI, but correlating the amount of weight I lost per dose over like the same given period of time, right? So 7.5 was the most weight I lost per like time, same period of time that I was on the dose, if you will.
If I had to guess, just based upon my anecdotal interactions with people, that would be that the 7.5 dose is universally the same, the people's favorite dose. Which
I think
incidentally was a dose that I skipped.
Yeah, well, I don't think it has as much to do with the quantity of medicine as much as it has to do with I was about, roughly 3 to 4 months into my journey, and that's about the time your body like really gets in a happy place, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and all the things are starting to work. And
Several months of the drug in your
yeah,
system.
so,
You've started to correct some things metabolically by that
right.
time. And yeah, so for sure, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
so I don't think there's anything particularly correlative in that, or maybe it's a lot more anecdotal, really. But for me, that was the strongest dose. But you could map that out. So that was fun. I put together some nice monthly trends and what have you. Overall, I averaged over the whole period 1.7 pounds a week, week over week. The whole time I was losing. The biggest week ever was 5 pounds. Worst week ever was a
Did you have
3 pound
any
gain.
weeks that you didn't lose any weight?
Yeah, I did. I did. Now, most of the time, one of them, I was on a vacation. Somebody mentioned well, you were just talking about skipping for vacation. Last Christmas, I did skip, but not because I wanted to overeat, because we went on a cruise for Christmas. I didn't want to try and travel with it and
Toss
everything
around.
else. So my strategy though was that I took a shot. I moved my shot day a little bit, so I took a shot the day we left home to go on the cruise, so that I could have as much for as long as I could have through there, right? So I went like an extra period of time where I skipped there, and but the long story short was I went on a cruise, had a great Christmas cruise. I enjoyed what I wanted to enjoy. I never really felt like I overate. I think when I got home, I had gained 3 pounds, and I think I lost it in 4 days, right? It was salt and water from just eating prepared foods and what have you.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of
Yeah.
times, people don't understand how much that affects the weight
Oh, yeah.
fluctuation. It's the water retention. So many people, like, especially if you're here and you just started Zepbound and you lose 5 or 7 or 8 pounds in the first week, just know that that's more than likely water weight that you're shedding. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to lose that amount of fat in a week. That's a massive caloric deficit, but don't expect that if you lose 5, 6, 7 pounds in a week, that's going to be the norm, or be frustrated the second week when you lose 0. It all kind of evens out. One of the questions that Dink Donk had was she's thinking about injecting into her thighs, but they're fatty. Do you think that makes a difference? She either said they're not fatty or they are fatty. I can't remember. She does not have fatty thighs. Would that be wasted on her?
I don't know. So you can look at the little drawings that Lily shows you on where you should do the injections on your thighs. I inject towards the inside of my thighs. If you were looking at down the top of like my right leg, or we'll use my left leg since I said that. If you're looking down through the top of my left leg, I would inject at about the 2 o'clock position, right? A little bit to the inside, off of the top. I think about everybody has a little bit of fat on the inside of their thighs, right? That's you've got to be really, really low body fat percentage to not have some fat on the inside of your thighs, because bodies just keep it there. So
awesome. I think this is a really good transition to maintenance, and to talk a little bit about what maintenance has looked like for you, and maybe kind of, I think, the process that you've kind of honed in to find what you can do without gaining weight, but also to keep from losing additional weight.
Yeah. So maintenance for me has been really since the 1st of September. By the way, somebody posted a question. I'll answer it now. It was about, how did you pick a goal weight? I'll be really clear. I did not pick a goal weight until I was down under 220. If I picked 185 pounds as a goal weight when I was 295, it would have seemed insurmountable. It would have seemed so far away, you were never going to get there. So my goal was just to lose some weight every week until I finally got down to about 220. And I'm like, now I need to start planning, right? I do need to pick a goal weight so I can decide how I'm going to handle my medication and how I'm going to go to maintenance. So I waited a long time to pick a goal weight. Once I did get there, though, and started on my way, what my doctor and I decided to do was just start either titrating down the dose or extending the dose period, right? And so I wanted to do the extended dose period and titrate down, but over a longer period of time. And so right now I'm doing about every 12 days. I started at 10 days on a shot. It was just I'll call it a kind of, in the wind, like, let's go with 2 times the half-life and see how that works out. And so I went for 10 days, and 10 days was doing okay. And so I'm like, well, let's try like 12 on this next one. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, is doing 12 days. I'm doing 10 milligram right now. I have 7.5 in stock, if you want to say that, but, I don't know. I've still got 10 left too. So, it's working. I'm maintaining within, I've been within plus or minus like 1.2 pounds of my goal weight since September. And I've been on work trips and all these other things. So, by the way, what makes me successful in that, right? You have to make changes to your diet and your habits and stuff the whole time you're on this medicine. It's not magic. It helped me by letting my body do the things it's supposed to do. But, I did still diet, if you will. It wasn't a strict calorie counting, macro counting, all those kinds of things. What I primarily did was try to eat less than 20 grams of added sugar per day in any one day, and skew towards more protein than carbohydrates. But I certainly ate carbohydrates. I did try to make them be and I always get it backwards, whether it's low glycemic or high glycemic, but the good carbs, right? Like, excuse me, low glycemic index carbs, oatmeals and whatever. Other thing I started doing here in maintenance, excuse me, was I started wearing a CGM. And I mentioned I'm not diabetic, but I also mentioned why it's important to have a healthcare partner in your doctor. And so I went to my doctor and said, hey, I'd like to wear a CGM. And by the way, you have to have a prescription to wear a CGM in the US because it's considered a medical device. So the FDA requires a prescription for it. And I said, and she's like, well, you're not diabetic. And I said, I know, but I want to understand how different foods affect my body's insulin and glucose response and what happens, right? And, again, I'm blessed with amazing insurance as a non-diabetic. They cover CGMs for me. So, so I've been wearing a CGM for probably a couple of months now. I've made a few changes in habits. Interestingly for me, and they say everybody's different, right? And they are. I can get a twice as high glucose spike from eating a white hamburger bun than I can from eating a cookie, which seems crazy, but different foods affect different people differently. And so you kind of need to understand those things, right? Because I've also learned that, like, instead of eating a white hamburger bun, I could eat a couple pieces of wheat bread of a particular kind that I eat all the time, and I won't even spike over 100 uh, on glucose when I do that. So, like, when you can learn another crazy thing, the order you eat your food in, right? If you sit down and eat the same plate of food of vegetables and meat and starch in a different order, you'll have a totally different glucose response. And so doing those experiments, changing those habits, those are things that become sustainable and allow you to go through maintenance and come off of maintenance and be successful for the rest of your life after these things, right? So
two things that I've learned as a diabetic on the heels of what you just said is that if I eat protein first in a meal, it really levels out the insulin spike. I'm going to eat a steak, and if I eat my baked potato secondly, my insulin or my blood sugar does this. But if I eat the potato first, it does this.
yeah.
The other thing is even, you got to be careful with this on a GLP-1 because it slows gastric emptying, and this stuff can cause issues for certain people sometimes anyway. But Metamucil, if I if I drink Metamucil 15 minutes before I eat, Metamucil, when you mix it up, if you let it sit in a cup, it becomes very gelatinous, right? So if you drink it right away, drink it quick, that's what it does in your stomach. And so then the food that you eat is coated in that as it moves through your digestive tract. And it just helps, especially if you're eating refined carbohydrates, to add some of the fiber to slow the digestion down a little bit so you don't get quite the bump. You're looking to not do this. And that's what a CGM really helps, because if you do this, you require a big surge of insulin. It's very hard on your pancreas. And then you have large amounts of insulin floating around in your blood, which makes it an environment to weight loss very difficult. Insulin's number one job is to pack away energy. It's weight gain is insulin's number one job. So if you have an environment in your body that is loaded down with insulin, it's a very difficult environment to lose weight in. And that's what these GLP-1s help. And that's why including a diet that is cognizant of the fact that insulin invoking foods are going to be probably an impediment to weight loss is just something good to keep in mind.
It is. And I'll say the last part of maintenance, right? There's a very big mental aspect to when you enter maintenance too, right? Because you suddenly need to eat 800 or maybe 1,000 calories a day more than you're used to eating, right? Or it was in my case, because I was eating I tried to eat a 600 to 800 calorie a day deficit when I was dieting if I could. And sometimes on these meds, right, it's hard not to eat a deficit that big when you're full and just can't get those calories in. But to maintain your weight and not lose, right, you have to add those calories back. You certainly don't want to do that all in one day. Like, okay, it's maintenance day and I'm all of a sudden going to eat 1,000 more calories every day from here on out. So I took kind of a slow ramp approach to that, right? Trying to intentionally add a couple of 100 calories back a day for a week and then adding some more. But it's a mental fight of like, I'm eating too much. This is not good. I'm gonna gain weight from this, right? Like, you have to be really cognizant of what you're doing to not keep losing weight while you're on these meds, and be where you want to be. And I mean, I also started working out and have a trainer and all that kind of stuff now too. And so I'm trying to put muscle on as much as I can, because muscle burns calories and fat does not. So the extent that I can build more muscle is that much more support I can have for not gaining weight again in the future, right? So.
Absolutely. Lots of things to consider. I'm so far off from maintenance that it's not something that gets covered on this channel a lot, but I'm really glad to have you in here and talking about it, because there's a lot of people who have been following me now for a year, and they've had the good fortune of having the experience on GLP-1 that you have, where you say sometimes it's hard to get in your calories. That's never been something that I've struggled with on a GLP-1. Minimal appetite suppression with Ozempic maybe. So with Monaro, I felt like it was just less food noise, like you were just hungry less often. But when I ate, I could typically eat without being uncomfortable. I would feel full, which was a new sensation to me, but with Ozempic, it seems to be that it just slows the digestion down so much more that once I do eat, I just feel full for a very long time. So it's interesting to hear other people's experiences on it. I've always kind of like been grasping for the next, like I'm really excited for some of these newer generation medicines to come out because I want to experience that feeling where you take the medicine and you're like, I can't imagine eating 1,200 calories. It just hits different for different people. But I appreciate you giving that perspective tonight because I know there's so many people who are there.
Yeah.
And even in the members live chat before we started, there were questions like, oh, I've got so many questions about maintenance. And I'm just thinking, you're talking to the wrong guy. But I'm glad that we had you on to talk a little bit about that tonight. There's other topics that we could get into, Brent, too. I think for the sake of time tonight, we'll have to put them on pause. But I would love to have you back sometime to talk about insurance, to talk about how to have the right conversations with your employers. Because, again, we are at that time where we should be having those conversations with our employers. Actually, probably going back the last couple of months, but it's never the wrong time to go to your employer and have those conversations about, especially employers who are big on diversity, equity, and inclusion, about the importance of adding obesity coverage to their health plan. And, an employer who is serious about that will take that conversation seriously and not just brush you off. So knowing more how to equip people about how to have those conversations would be great, as well as how to kind of navigate issues with insurance. But for the sake of time, we'll just put a pin in that one for another time. But
Absolutely.
I really, really appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing with the chat. I know, I can't see the people in the chat, but I can just envision their eyes all glued to the screen tonight, and less so in the chat, because I think it's just been such a engaging conversation tonight. So thanks for bringing that in.
Can I have 30 more seconds?
All the time you want.
No, just there was a question earlier from Brandon about changing your injection day, and I said I would answer it in the chat. So I've changed my injection day several times. It's pretty easy to do. The easiest way to do it is just to do it one day early each week, like at 6 days instead of 7 days if you're on a 7-day schedule. I think the Lilly official documentation says as long as it's been 5 days, you can take it. That's the way I always did it, was I would just take it 1 day or 2 days early to move it back. So sometimes it might take you a couple of weeks or 3 weeks to get to the day of the week you want. But that's a very easy way to do it. And then I'll say for me, and many people I've talked to, Thursday is perfect shot day because that gives it like 24 hours to get ramped up and into good effect for going into the weekend, when we often have less structured days and it's easier to get out of whack. That's why I moved my shot days from Mondays to Thursdays, because at the beginning of the week, if it was going to wear off by Saturday and Sunday, that was worse than wearing off on like a Wednesday when you have structure in your day to help support you. So
absolutely. Plus, On the Pen is on Thursday nights, and that's when I take my shot. So we'll just do it together.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, Brent. Thank you for all the work you're doing over in the men's group, and then also in our group, the Zepbound for Weight Loss group. Just a wealth of information. And so thank you for all that you've provided to the community at large, whether it's communicating over there and now over here on the pen. Would love to have you back sometime to talk about some of those other topics. And honestly, it never hurts to have some of these conversations again, just about maintenance and tracking. And I think you've really done it the right way. I think you've given some really great advice tonight. So thank you for being here and lending some of your time to the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun.
All right, buddy. Well, you take care, and we'll catch you again sometime soon.
And I'll be in your group, right? So anybody that's in that group can tag me with a question if we didn't get it answered tonight, or they think of something later. I'm happy to share there. So
there you go. Zepbound for Weight Loss on Facebook. Thanks, Brent. Have a Merry Christmas, man. Good to see you. Good to meet you.
Same to you all. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Brent Tuggle, moderator, Zepbound for Weight Loss. And the men's Monaro, Ozempic, Wegovy weight loss community. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. It's been great. I don't think there were any super chats tonight, so I'm going to just go ahead and pick. It's got to be the left side, right? It's got to be the left thigh. 2 o'clock. So we're going to go 12, 1, 2. And we're going to test this theory out. I'm hoping to do it the Brent way tonight. So thank you all for being here tonight. This was a great stream. Thank you to Brent, who is just a wealth of knowledge and information. I know that you all enjoyed it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do here at Man on the Monjaro. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next year, right? This is the last stream of the year. Going to take a couple weeks off, but I appreciate all of you. I won't back off of making content. Make sure you always hit that like, hit that bell, hit that sub. Make sure that we continue to grow and expand this community. And thank you all for being here tonight. We will catch you on the next stream. Until next time, take care.